Good morning, everybody. Today is December 6th, 2020. 2020 is almost in the books, finally. That means we are 116 days from scheduled opening day. No word on whether or not the season will be delayed again. We'll see what happens. In this episode, I wanted to talk a little bit about Japanese right-handed pitcher Tomoyuki Sugano, and sorry if I butchered that. Also, Gary Sanchez goes deep in the Winter League. Corey Kluber is rumored to be close to signing with the Yankees, although the source is not that reputable. Also, Bauer Cashman and Trevor Bauer supposedly had dinner. We'll talk about whether or not anything can come of that. And an update on the LeMahieu situation. Surprised that the Yankees have not locked him up yet. All that and more, starting now. If you've been watching baseball since the 90s, you probably remember Hideo Nomo, the guy with the crazy wind-up. He arrived with the Los Angeles Dodgers in 1995, the strike-shortened season. He was 13-6 with a 2.54 ERA. He was an all-star. He won the Rookie of the Year award, and he finished 4th in the Cy Young voting. And this kind of took the baseball world by storm. Up until this point, there had never been a successful Japanese starting pitcher. Now, back in the 90s, George Steinbrenner was still the Yankees owner. In fact, he had just come back from his suspension. And the Yankees were on the precipice of a dynasty, but they hadn't won in a while at that point. And so George Steinbrenner got extremely jealous, and he wanted to get his hands on any Japanese star pitcher that he could. In 1997, after the Yankees did win the 96 World Series, he acquired the rights to Hideki Irabu. Now, Irabu was kind of marketed as the Japanese Nolan Ryan. Irabu ended up being kind of a bust.
How could you give $12 million to Hideki Irabu?
George Steinbrenner famously called him a fat, pussy toad after he failed to cover first base during a spring training game. He was traded to the Montreal Expos, but that didn't stop the Yankees' pursuit of Japanese pitchers. They were heavily involved in the Daisuke Matsuzaka discussions back in, I believe it was 2006, 2007. They ended up with Keiagawa, who was a total bust for, I believe, $26 million. A couple years later, they signed Hiroki Kuroda, who was actually pretty good with the Yankees. And then, of course, for the past 7 years, they've had Masahiro Tanaka, who's arguably been the Yankees' best Japanese investment ever. Other than possibly Hideki Matsui, but he was an outfielder. He did win the 2009 World Series MVP, a true superstar. Well, another Japanese pitcher is about to be posted. This time from the Yomiuri Giants. His name is Tomoyuki Sugano. He's a right-handed pitcher. He's 6'1", 183 pounds. He's 31 years old. He just turned 31 in October. And he had a pretty good year. He's had a pretty good career. He's been 101 and 50, 101 wins, 50 losses, 2.34 career earned run average. He's got several seasons with an ERA under 2, including 2020, in which he was 14-2 with a 1.97 ERA. He pitched 137 and 1/3 innings, struck out 131, just 25 walks. So he's got very good command, and that's one of the things that I noticed when I was watching him pitch, is that he almost always hits his spots. He's got a fastball that's 93 to 95. It's a four-seamer. He does throw what's called a shuto, which is kind of like a two-seamer. So he's not just a straight fastball guy, though I didn't see a ton of two-seamers or shutos in the highlights I watched of him. He's got a pretty good curveball that's kind of a 12 to 6 breaker, but it's pretty slow. It's 78 to 80. Think of Davy Garcia, although his curveball doesn't seem quite as good as Davy Garcia's, but he does have pretty good command. He's a veteran. And it is worth noting that the baseball used in Japan, and I don't know if this is still the case, but it was a couple of years ago, is slightly smaller than a Major League Baseball, and that allows guys to throw better breaking pitches. It also looked to me like he had a pretty good slider. So 93 to 95 on the fastball, decent curveball, decent slider, pretty good command. You know, he could be somebody that's worth taking a look at, depending on how much he costs you. Now, the way the posting system works, to my understanding, and I could be wrong, somebody correct me if I am, is that Sugano can negotiate with whatever team he wants to negotiate with. And then after that team signs him, that team pays a posting fee based on the size of the contract. So the bigger the contract, the bigger the posting fee, and that posting fee goes directly to the Yomiuri Giants. I'm not sure if the posting fee counts towards the luxury tax. I don't think it does, but they change these rules every couple years, so I may be out of date on that. But to me, he looks like a decent pitcher. He's somebody that, based on what the scouts say, and the Yankees' scouting of Japanese pitchers has gotten better. But based on what the scouts say, maybe you take a look at him. The scouts obviously thought that Hideki Irabu and Kei Agawa were good pitchers. And to be fair, Hideki Irabu did have a pretty good 1998, at least the first half of 1998. He won the Pitcher of the Month in May, and there was some talk that he could actually start the All-Star game, but he kind of faded down the stretch and was never really the same. He didn't really keep himself in great shape. He used to smoke cigarettes while he was throwing a bullpen session. So, he drank a lot. And then there was Kei Agawa, who just really wasn't good. His stuff just wasn't major league quality. But Masahiro Tanaka was a pretty nice pickup, at least through the first 7 years with the Yankees. No telling what he's going to be like if he comes back, but through the first 7 years, especially that first year, that first half of that first year, he started off 11-1 with a 1.99 ERA. So the Yankees seem to get it right with Masahiro Tanaka, and I fully trust their scouting department when it comes to evaluating Sugano. Also, we have a Kraken sighting. Gary Sanchez, who recently was tendered a contract by the Yankees, which means he will be coming back unless they trade him, has hit a monster home run in the Dominican Winter League. This ball's absolutely crushed, though let's be honest, this was kind of an early Christmas gift. It was about 86, 87 miles an hour, right down the middle of the plate. And Gary Sanchez does what a major league hitter should do with that type of pitch. That was a meatball, and it got clobbered. That ball's not coming back. Enjoying the bat flip. It's been a while since we've seen Gary Sanchez have that kind of a reaction, but when you're playing against guys who are not as established as you should dominate. And so I'm happy for him. It looks like he's slimmed down just a bit, but Gary Sanchez still has a lot of work to do in 2021. He probably won't be catching for the Yankees on opening day because the Yankees' personal catcher for Garrett Cole is Kyle Higashioka. So Gary Sanchez will not be the Yankees' opening day catcher unless Higashioka gets hurt. Now, earlier in the week, there was a tweet that kind of got some attention, but it was from a guy who claimed to be a Yankees beat writer, though I don't think he is. I've never seen him before. And a few other beat writers have commented on it, saying that this rumor is not true. Corey Kluber potentially close to signing with the Yankees. Now, this doesn't mean that he won't sign with the Yankees. It just means that there's no hard evidence at all that he is close to signing with the Yankees. Corey Kluber obviously was a stud for several years with the Cleveland Indians, won a couple of Cy Young Awards, has been injured a lot the last couple seasons. This year he was with the Texas Rangers, only appeared in one game. Corey Kluber is exactly the type of low-risk, high-reward contract that Brian Cashman likes to give out. He's not going to command a huge contract because he's been injured the past couple of years. So who's going to pay him a ton of money at a time when contracts are going to be low because teams lost a lot of money this season? So I could see Corey Kluber being available on a one-year deal for maybe $5 or $6 or $7 million bucks. And if he's hurt, insurance will eat a lot of that money. So Brian Cashman could make that investment and hope that if he is healthy, he can give you that 1 year of really good pitching in the number 2 spot at a time when Luis Severino is going to be coming back from Tommy John surgery and really help out your rotation. So I could see the Yankees, it makes a lot of sense. I could see them making that move if he's healthy. One other move that should be getting a little bit of attention. Brian Cashman apparently had dinner at Brian Cashman's home with Trevor Bauer. This is in Connecticut. No word on whether or not Brian Cashman cooked the jambalaya.
Did you not like the jambalaya?
But Trevor Bauer is one of those guys who's very outspoken. He's got kind of a reputation of being, a difficult clubhouse guy for managers, not so much for teammates. The teammates seem to love him. But, he kind of gave Terry Francona a hard time. He's had some issues in the past. So I think Brian Cashman is probably meeting with Trevor Bauer just to get to know him, just to see if he would fit in with the Yankees culture. Maybe to see if he would be willing to give up his blogging and things like that, just so that he could give the Yankees a shot to win a World Series. In my opinion, he's not going to want to do that. I think Trevor Bauer is who he is, and I think if you change him too much, it's going to affect the way that he pitches on the mound. Look at Roger Clemens when he first got to the Yankees. He really struggled that first year in New York, and it wasn't until he had a conversation with Joe Torre, where Joe Torre said, hey, we didn't trade for you to get you to fit in. We traded for you because we wanted the rocket. We wanted that presence. And after that, Roger Clemens was fantastic with the Yankees. So this is a direct message to Brian Cashman, because I know that he occasionally watches this channel. Brian, if you're going to sign Trevor Bauer, let Trevor be Trevor. And I promise he'll pitch well for you. And last topic on this abbreviated winter episode. It's really surprising to me that the Yankees haven't signed DJ LeMahieu yet. Apparently he won't budge on his 5-year, $100 million demand. The Yankees are still only offering 4 years. No word on the money yet. No word on whether or not there's actually been an official offer yet. It seems like the Yankees don't really make an official offer until they know that it will be accepted. They're not one of those teams that likes to put a few offers out there. They like to engage in conversations and kind of, develop a rapport with the player and their agent and kind of get on the same page before they bother doing all the paperwork. So you might remember a couple years ago, the Yankees didn't even make an offer to Didi Gregorius when he became a free agent. There have been a few other times that has happened with different players where they say that they're interested, but they never really officially make an offer because the player is asking for too much money. But we'll see what happens. DJ LeMahieu is an incredibly valuable asset to this team, and it's just a matter of how the Yankees want to allocate their spending in 2021. I don't believe they're going to cut spending that much. I know they lost a lot of money in 2020. Every team did. But the Yankees are going to earn that money back. I mean, you can borrow against it if you need to. The Yankees don't need to borrow against it. They're an incredibly rich family, an incredibly rich organization. But if you needed to borrow against it, you're going to get that money back once fans get back in the stands. So DJ LeMahieu is a nice investment. Go ahead and give him the 5th year if that's the stalling point. We've got to get him back in the fold for 2021. And then figure out how much money you have left to improve the team in other areas. If you can't add to the pitching, then I understand, because you've got Luis Severino coming back. You've got to feel like he's going to be good. You've got Clark Schmidt right on the horizon. So maybe you could get by without adding that big starting pitcher. You definitely need to take a look at the bullpen. Liam Hendricks is out there. And you need to look at ways to improve the team in the margins. I'm not convinced Tyler Wade is the type of hitter you need on the big league roster. There's a few other guys out there, Cesar Hernandez, Tommy La Stella. Either one of those guys would be a good fit. You could look at Michael Brantley for left field, but then what are you going to do with Clint Frazier? I think Clint Frazier has earned the left field job with the Yankees, though they are a bit too right-handed. So I feel like the roster right now has a lot of areas in which you can improve because it's not constructed perfectly. You can add left-handed bats. You can add more relief pitching. You can add starting pitching. So it's really going to come down to how Brian Cashman wants to allocate his funds and how many funds the Yankees have available. He might have to get creative with some trades. We'll see how it works out. I will be back as soon as there's an update. I'll see you next time.
If you enjoyed this video, go ahead and smash the like and subscribe buttons. It helps YouTube suggest this video to other Yankees fans. Tune in all season long for series previews, post-game live streams, news, rumors, ranked lists, highlights, and long-form podcast episodes. See you next time.